What's up guys, Chasing Lamely here with episode number 82 of Robin's Revival, and we are back with a transfer special today. So let's just roll right into it. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, you know the deal, and intro time. Let's do it. So we're not actually at the end of the transfer window, but we are at our first live com of the season, which will be the episode on Monday. Got my days in my head wrong then. We'll be on Monday, and it's the Swindon Arsenal Community Shield game, because we've never played in that before, so that'll be our first live com of the season. We're just going to do transfers today though. Also another thing for the, just to clear up any confusion going forward, you'll see on the left-hand side, I've taken over the New Zealand job as well. It won't be part of the save, I just fancied the challenge on the side. So I decided to take that on. If you guys want to see it, let me know in the comments. But it wasn't a conscious part of the series. It was more that sounded like a fun challenge. Anyway, let's get into the transfers, shall we? So we're going to start by looking at who we've said goodbye to in this summer. And the first person out the door was Philippe Crétinoir, who I brought in, and he was on loan to Celtic last season, and he never really looked like he was going to fully make the grade. He still does have some potential, but at 25, I felt like I could probably find a younger, better option. So Philippe Crétinoir has joined Celtic on a permanent transfer now, and he's gone for 5.25 million, which is a pretty good profit on a player that I've spent 49k on and never played. So I'm quite happy with that as our first departure of the year, but there's been quite a few, so let's get through them as quick as we can, shall we? So Russell Collins, England under-18 international, came from our youth team. He has been sold to Wolves for the rather measly sum. His contract was running out, the rather measly sum of £83,000. But if we look at his kind of stats, his scout report, all that kind of good stuff, he never really looked like he was going to make it. I know it says potentially 3.5, 4-star kind of potential, but I wasn't feeling it. I didn't think he was going to get there, especially with 9 determination. I didn't think he was going to make it, so I took the money because, you know, I'd rather have the money than hang around waiting for a player to maybe make the grade. Now, probably the biggest sale of the window is Taki Kubo, who has joined West Ham United for the sum of 30 million. Again, huge profit because I spent 5.75 on him. I also got 63 league games out of him, and I was sort of looking at the squad and I was thinking, going forward, is Taki Kubo going to be a first-team regular for us this season? Probably not. He probably would have been on the bench, which means he would have been. He's been on the bench most of this season. He played 13 of his 16 league games from the bench. He was starting to get unhappy. It felt like if he's unhappy, he'll make other members of the squad unhappy. Also, I had to kind of factor in the fact that he's 30. His pace was dropping. It just felt like the right time to move on, and I can't turn down 30 million for a guy I plan to move on. Now, I also saw another youth teamer, Jacques Badiashile, to West Brom, who have had a tycoon takeover, I noticed, because they've been buying every player under the sun and bidding for every player under the sun, it looks like. They've paid £1.6 million for him. He only played a couple of times, I think, for us in a cup here or there, or I think he may have played a few front. He only kind of featured in games that didn't matter, is kind of what I'm saying. And again, I didn't think he was going to fully make the grade. They offered 1.6. I took the money. It was a no-brainer. Now, perhaps the, I guess, biggest prospect I sold was Ashan Cully. He's gone to Barnsley. He was on loan at Europa Point last season, 20 goals in 18 games. Great return for him, but 165k for a guy who probably has the Championship as his ceiling did feel like a good move for me. Also, he refused to go back on loan to Europa Point this season. I felt like it was a good place for him to be. They're playing Champions League football. I felt like he'd be a good place for him to be. He didn't want to go, so I moved him back, or sold him on to Barnsley for a decent transfer fee. And of course, there are some add-ons and stuff in there. But Ashan Cully, we say goodbye to. Harvey Vale has also finally left the club to go to Blackburn. He has been on loan there for a couple of years. They've paid 475k to make his move permanent. And it feels like actually they've made a bit of a rash decision because he didn't really play for them last year. But he'd stopped developing, and this was a guy I looked at when I signed him from Chelsea. I thought he could be a top star kind of player, and he just kind of plateaued. And he's 27 now. I'm not going to put any more time into him. He cost us nothing, and ultimately we've taken some money in loan fees for him. We've taken a transfer fee for him. It's a pretty good all-round deal. Another player making a loan permanent is Xavier De Fass, who has gone and joined Crewe. He came out of our youth team. He's joined Crewe for 250k after a season on loan there. And again, he wasn't really going to make it. He'd be a good signing for Crewe long term, but he wasn't going to be a good player for us to keep around long term, so I just let him go. And hopefully he'll do really well for Crewe. Now, a few players left at the end of their contract. Thomas Drewes was one of them. The German former under-21 international has joined Udinese. He didn't cost me anything, and I made a little bit in loan fees for him, so I couldn't really be unhappy with that as a return. But again, I thought he'd develop into a better player than he did, and he didn't get there. So who knows, maybe he can reinvent himself in Serie A. Another freebie, Ronaldo Anaya, has joined Philippe Cretinois at Celtic. Another player, again, I thought huge potential when we signed him. We signed him, 7 seasons ago on a free when we were in the Championship. And I thought, this kid could really be a big star. And he had a few loans at Crewe, at Fortuna Dusseldorf, at Rostov, at Millwall. So we did take some money for him along the way, 146.5 million for him. So, yeah, that was good math. 146.5 million thousand for him we've taken over the course of his time here. But yeah, again, it was just, he was out on loan. He wasn't developing at all beyond where he was. And it just, Celtic won him, and, fair play. Let him go, let him enjoy his time in the Scottish Premier League. Maybe he'll develop and reach his potential eventually. But, you have to also kind of feel that I signed him at 18. He's 25 now. He's not there yet. He wasn't making it into the first team for us. So hopefully he'll become a Celtic legend, but good luck to him. The last kind of player of note left, I'm afraid, a few other players left on a free, but the last player of note that left was Lucas Archer, who was a youth team goalkeeper, came through. He got capped for the England under-19s, never played for us, spent last season on loan at Barrow, did very well in the Conference North, but he's joined Dundee on a free. His contract expired. I didn't think it was worth keeping him around. There was nothing in my kind of scouting that said this guy is really going to turn into something special. So away he goes. Now back to the money sales, and I was trying to save up some cash for a very special signing that I did in fact get completed. Frederick Bjrnsson at 32 was kind of well past his prime. I know I paid 10.5 million for him. I got 42 games out of him, which is not still a bad return, but Villarreal offered us 4 million for him. I couldn't see him being a first team player beyond this season. He would have played this season, but beyond this season he wouldn't have. His contract was expiring at the end of the season. So I took 4 million for him. I felt like it was a good deal. I felt like I could get someone younger in and kind of fill the void, or just keep our younger players around and let them fill the void through time. So Frederick Bjrnsson has gone to Spain, and he'll have a decent run, I think, at Villarreal for what's left of his career. I also sold Moussa Dembele to Dinamo Kyiv. 35 years old. He was playing for us last season. I mean, he was mostly playing kind of as a sub or a backup. Got 8 goals actually in 20 games, so actually did better for us than he did in his previous stint at Norwich, and actually probably better goals per game wise than in the end of his days at Arsenal. I know I paid 8.75 for him. Again, he was coming to the end of his contract at the end of the season. I wasn't going to keep him around because he's 35 and declining. So when the Dinamo Kyiv came in with 3.5 million, I wasn't going to turn that down. It was a good deal for us. Good deal for him. He'll play a lot of first-team football there for them as well. So, good move all round. Now, again, a kind of a big signing for us, a big sale for us. Pablo Ramon, who never really broke into our first team as a regular, only played 7 league games for us. 5 of them were from the bench. So I've sold him on for 15 million. I paid nothing to bring him in from Real Madrid, and he's 29. I think he just turned 30 during the summer, actually. But yeah, he's just turned 30 during the summer, and I didn't see any reason to keep him around. He wasn't a first-team regular. He cost me nothing. 15 million came in, and I got a better player in return for the money. So, good move all round. And likewise, as I said, I was saving for the big signing. Joaquim Konoplia has joined Benfica. He goes over to Portugal for a fee of 16.25 million. So I made 2 million on him and got 42 appearances out of him, which is not bad for a guy who's 31. and before signing for us hadn't played regularly in 5 years. Since leaving Shakhtar, really hadn't played regularly. So I was quite happy with that money-wise. I'm quite happy with that in terms of what I've managed to exchange the money for. It's all worked out quite nicely. And he was actually doing okay for us last season, but again, I had better options coming in, and so we've let him go. Another player going to Lyon was Erkan Gül, who was signed as a backup keeper last season from Bayern. He did play, I think, a couple of cup games for us. He played in the FA Cup for us. But then Lyon offered us 9.5 million. They wanted to make him their first choice goalkeeper. I can't stand in the way of an opportunity like that because he was never going to be our first choice. He was literally signed as maybe a long-term backup. So 9.5 for him to come in or to go to France. Great deal for us. Great deal for him. And hopefully he'll do quite well there. We also finally got the other Thiago Rayo out of the club on a permanent move. He's joined Watford for 2.8 million. I only paid $500,000 for him. Middlesbrough paid me $500,000 to loan him last season. They didn't take up their option on him. So 2.8 for Watford, great. He goes to play in the Championship, which is more his level. I take a profit. Again, really happy with that. And the final money sale was Albert McKell, who was on loan at Norwich last season, only played once, which shows that he's not a Premier League level. So Leicester have paid us $7.5 million. I only paid 7.25 for him, so I still made a little bit of a profit. He was, again, only brought in as kind of a rotation option. I overpaid for him, really, as a rotation option, if I'm honest, but even so, I got the money back, and he proved he wasn't good enough to play in the Premier League by having half a season at Norwich and playing less games for them than he did for us. He really wasn't going to make our first team any better in the long term, so I let him go. But you're probably asking yourselves now, well, who have you signed? Who's replaced all these players? Let's go meet some new faces. And the first man through the door was this beautiful little fella, an 18-year-old Brazilian midfielder called Bergson, or Bergson, I think is probably how you actually pronounce it. We're going to go with Bergson, though, because I'm lazy. He's currently on loan at Crewe, but I paid $8.5 million to bring in this guy from Atlético Paranaense in Brazil, and I did it largely because his scouting report just looks incredible. He's got the determination to make it. If we get his pace going, get him in a position where we can use him properly, absolutely incredible signing, already worth 30 to 42 million on a really low wage as well for a long contract. So hopefully we'll see him become a first team regular, and if we don't, we're going to see a big profit from him. So I'm really happy with him as a signing. We'll see how he does on loan at Crewe this season. I expect him to be one of their better players in League One, and then maybe we'll bring him back into the fold and see what he does for us. And another player who was signed and sent on loan, largely because of his work permit issues, actually, he's probably good enough to be in our first team squad, is Mateo Tobon, who is a Colombian international. He will get a work permit because he's a Colombian international, and Colombia's up there in the FIFA rankings. So it's just a case of getting a few more games for Colombia under his belt. They are English, developing very fast already since I brought him in, which is impressive for a guy with such mediocre, really, determination. He's come in for 1.1 million from Envigado in the second division of Colombian football. He got 11 goals in 18 games last season as a striker. It's not bad. He's gone on loan to Al Ahly in Egypt, where I expect him to play a lot and look really good, which should hopefully keep him in the Colombian squad. And as I said, they do have when it finally loads, the world ranking. They're 14th in the world. They have the world ranking for him to get a work permit. It's just a case of let's get him a few more caps, get him when he's in their first team, get him properly established in their first team, and then we'll get him a work permit, bring him back, and make him play some football is the most important thing. So good to have him around. I expect him to be back in the squad by January if we're really lucky. Then we have a returning familiar face. Ignacio Luque has come back to us from Manchester United on a free. He was on loan with us when we were in the Championship. Scored 2 goals in 8 games. He came up on a free end of his contract. I took him on. I was disappointed. He hasn't got a work permit, so I'm currently trying to loan him out. It's been hard work, but I'm trying to loan him out so he can just play some football and hopefully at a decent enough level where he will get a work permit. He came in as a backup to Parody. Obviously, I've let Dembele go, so I was looking for a backup, but he cost us nothing to bring in. So we'll see what happens. If I have to sell him, I have to sell him, but we'll see what happens with him. Now, the big signing I was looking to raise all that money for is a guy we know very, very well already. Sunday Obedima is now officially a Swindon Town player for permanence. £55 million I have spent on a centre-half, which is ridiculous luxury. We've had him on loan for 4 seasons. I paid $500,000 initially. but he stayed with us the entire time, and he's played a lot of games. He's been our best centre-half. I'd even go so far as to say he might be among the best centre-halves in the world with these stats, which you can't really complain about. And I've picked him up for a song. He's well liked by our fans already. Really great signing. He's learning to play right back as well, because I felt like that'd be a really good thing for him to do with his pace, get his crossing up a little bit. He could be a good backup option at right back, but he's very much our first choice centre-half and probably first name on the team sheet at this point. Another player we had on loan with us last season, actually, he's joined us for keeps, is Grigory Chaprigna, who has joined us from Dynamo Kiev. We paid $6 million to loan him last season. We've signed him for 28, so $34 million outlay on a player who I think has a really, really big upside. Like, I really genuinely think this kid, once he's done developing, is going to be one of the best players in the world. I may loan him out this season. I haven't made any concrete decisions on his future. It's possible I'll send him on loan this year. But again, no decision's been made yet. I'm working on what I do with him. If I think I can give enough first-team football this season, he'll stick around. But otherwise, he may well go and have a season on loan somewhere and see how he comes back. Now, while I saw answers to my striker problem, Luis Suarez came up. Not the Luis Suarez that likes biting people. This Luis Suarez is a Colombian international. He played for Watford for about 10 seconds in the 2017-18 season. But he's since been kind of all over Spain, playing for Granada in La Liga for a few seasons. He's got quite a good goal-scoring return, to be honest. He scores about a goal every game and a half-ish on average over his career. 2 goals every 5 games, or just under 2 goals every 5 games across his career. So as a striking option, quite a good backup option. 33, not a long-term option, of course, but a good option for us to have now, and also a little bit of a different kind of striker to Gustavo Parody as well, which is quite nice to have as an option in the squad. He's got a little bit of pace left, can finish, decently composed. Should get a few goals, should be a good influence on the youngsters as well in the squad, which is something I really wanted to make sure I had as my backup striker. We should see some good things out of him this season, maybe not regularly, but regularly enough. 26 goals in 64 games for Colombia as well makes him a very good signing in my opinion. Another freebie joining us from Barcelona is Portuguese international Thierry Arendelle Correa, comes from Barca. He's played 101 games for Barcelona. They signed him for 29 million. They let his contract expire, so I took him for nothing. Also played for Bayern Munich as well. They paid 19 million for him. He plays for Valencia in real life and also plays for Sporting in Portugal before that. So £50.5 million spent on him across the course of his career, and I've picked him up on a free. He is sort of a short-term right-back option at 32, but he's got some pace, and I quite like the look of this kid. So he will be a more than capable fill-in at right-back with Canoplia gone. Now, I also made some young signings because I didn't want to completely have an old man brigade again. Ludger Schade, or I think Schade, has joined us from Bayern Munich on a free transfer. He's 19 years old. He's a good-looking little central defender. He's had some few games in the Bundesliga, which is, of course, important. Young prospect, is probably the 3rd or 4th best centre-half in our squad at 19. Under 21 international for the German national team. Good at tackling, will develop into a decent centre-half, I think, as time goes on. I'm very, very happy with this kid as a signing. I'm very happy to bring him in, and I think long-term, this is the guy who plays alongside Obedima. But of course, I was worried a little bit that we lacked some depth in defence, and also English players for registration reasons. So Billy Smith has come in from Leeds, 22 years old, former under-18 international for England. He's not really played for Leeds, and he's 22, and I just kind of wanted a versatile option that I could have in case. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of him. He'll play some cup games, I'm sure, just to kind of keep him fit and keep tabs on him. He's not really very quick, but he can play all across the defence, and he does everything at kind of a championship level, which is always good to have as an option, as like a backup on the bench. So that's kind of his purpose. Another signing for the future was Giancarlo Battazzi, who is an Italian right-back who can also do a little bit of left-back and up top, and very unusual kind of set of positionings. But he joins us from Juventus on a free. Played 6 games for them a couple of seasons ago in Serie A. He's got a few Serie A appearances under his belt. I'm trying to quick math this in my head. 14 Serie A appearances, which is not too bad. He's quite quick. He's still young enough to develop and has a pretty good potential rating, which means he was worth bringing in and having a look at least, because he cost me nothing. And if I have to sell him £40 million, it's pretty decent. If Brighton want to loan him this season, I'd actually be here for that. So Giancarlo Battazzi comes in as a long-term prospect just to see what happens with him. Maybe he'll play a few games this season. Maybe he'll go and play for Brighton on loan. We'll see what happens with him, and we'll find out if he's got what it takes to be a long-term member of this Swindon squad. Another youngster who I found when I took over the New Zealand squad, saw this kid and went, oh, he looks tasty. This is Phil Bidouar, who joins us from PSG on a free. He's played 12 times for the New Zealand national team already. Great flair, great determination, central midfielder. Looks like he's a long-term prospect at 23, I think, or a medium-term prospect, I guess. We'll see what happens on him. PSG paid 1.3k for him. We paid nothing for him. He's been a regular in their second team and also played for Wellington Phoenix before that, so decent enough for a youngster. We'll probably get some game time this season if I don't load him out, and we'll see what it becomes of him. Like I said, he was reasonably cheap wage-wise, he was free transfer fee-wise. Thought I'd give him a chance. That was entirely my thinking. Just thought I'd give him a shot. So let's see what happens with him. I also signed one of his PSG teammates, Boyd Hatterboer, who is a centre-half, again with some decent potential, kind of more of the backup option for me. But as backup options go, he's a decent kind of championship-level player. He has done some time in Australia. He's done some time with PSG. Actually played for PSG. Started his career at Benlo. Had an interesting little run around the place. But I just feel like I don't think he's a first-team regular long-term. I think he's a backup whilst I figure out what I'm doing. Obviously, I spent a lot of money on Obadima and I sold 2 centre-halves. Needed some options in there. This kid was kind of one of those options, and so I'm quite happy with him as backup. But I did spend some more money. I spent like 150 million or something this summer. Ben Chilwell at 34 has joined us from Chelsea and will very much be our first choice left back this season. He's still got the pace. He's still in the England squad, no less. He's not quite the player we see him in real life as, but he's had a decent career. He's 34. He's still got probably a season or two left in the tank. I paid £6 million for him, which is considerably less than Chelsea paid for him. And he's played, 300 games for Chelsea in the Premier League? I think he's actually won the league. I didn't look at his biography, but I think he may have. Let's have a look. He has won the Premier League with Chelsea, the European International League with England, the Club World Championship with Chelsea, the World Cup with England, the Champions Cup with Chelsea, the FA Cup with Chelsea, the League Cup 4 times with Chelsea, and the Community Shield with Chelsea. He's won it all. Good experience, actually, to bring in for us and gives us that little bit extra at left back. I think he's going to be a great signing for us. I think I've secured the back four now to go for an actual, maybe realistic title run this season. But there was one more piece I needed for that. Let's go meet him. And so naturally, I've handed Manchester City so much money this summer. It's ridiculous. £51 million for Tariq Lamptey from Manchester City. He's been their first choice right back for many of the last few seasons. Always looked really good against us when he's played as well, which is something that I really, whenever I saw, I was like, I'd quite like to sign that kid. He looks pretty good when he plays against us. £83.2 million of transfer fees spent on this kid over the course of his career. I say kid, he's 30 now. Played 5 times for England. Really quick, though, for a 30-year-old. Really quick. Decent enough as his best position, apparently, his recommended position is as a left winger, but his natural position is as a right back. And I really like what I'm seeing with this guy, and I think this is the last piece I need for a back four to really, really challenge for the title. Really good signing, really happy with him. And I think having gone through all of our transfers now, it's probably time that we go and meet our starting 11, our squad depth screen. Sorry, my brain's fried. Just got in from work. Let's go see the squad depth screen and see how we're looking for this season. So, starting up top, we've got Parody and Suarez as our strikers. Obviously, we need to get Ignacio Luque a work permit, and also the other, I've forgotten his name already, Matteo, whatever his name was, the other Colombian striker need work permits. But I've got Gordon and Rashford that can play up top if we get into trouble. In terms of the left wing, Connor, Ruiz, Solari and Rashford are still there. Right wing, Connor, Gordon, Solari, Rashford and Amaral as well developing. In the centre of midfield, Taylor, Connor, Page, Ruiz and Didi and several more, Solari, Bidouar, Lamine Kofi, I think is a youth team. I don't know if you've met Lamine Kofi. I think he came out of our youth team. You've not met him yet. Oh no, he's joining us when he turns 18. Yao Maria is back as well off of his loan, but he'll probably get sold on. Lucas Marion, again, is another player I know who is coming in. Long-term defensive midfielder, we've still got Page and Didi Mancini. Amaral is in the squad as well to fill that gap, and Yao Maria. So I'm pretty happy with that kind of depth. It doesn't look spectacular from the star ratings, but I'm pretty happy with that. At left back, options. We've got Chilwell, Rendell Correa, Lamptey, Ferran, Kojic, who can play at left back. At right back, Amy, Rendell Correa, Lamptey, Kojic, Billy Smith. It's pretty good there. Centre half, Obadima, Page, Amy, and Mancini, and Didi. It keeps going on. Amaral, Sade and Billy Smith, all capable of filling in there. And then in goal, Martina, Araujo, Sendra, who is a guy who's been around or is coming in to our youth team as well. Again, waiting for the kid to turn 18 in January. And Al-Assad is still around as well, who, although he's probably going to go on loan. I can't remember where. Wigan or Coventry. Good times for him. So that's our kind of squad depth for this season. I'm pretty happy with how it all looks. If we look at our prediction for this season as things stand, because I'm still in the market. Still in the market for a few other players. They're predicting 10th for us, which is curious why you predict 10th for a team that finished 4th last season. But they've also predicted 6th for a United team that finished 3rd last season. So I don't know. I also didn't know it could do a projected lineup thing for the... I've learned a thing today. There you go. Projected lineup. Looks pretty good. Nothing like what we'll probably use, but looks pretty good. Yeah, we're doing pretty well, I think, this season. I'm quite happy with where we are. So we should have a good year, is kind of what I'm trying to communicate with you guys. Anyway, guys, that feels like time to wrap it up. Join me on Monday for the Community Shield. Then we'll play the first game of the season on Wednesday. The first game of the league season, and then the first game of the Champions League, I imagine, will be the Friday episode. That's kind of my plan. In the meantime, like, subscribe, leave comments down below. Let me know how you think we'll do this season, where you think we're going to finish. Be interested to see your thoughts with the overhaul of the squad. And in the meantime, I've been Chasing Amy. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one.